Yeah, we did. Looks like it.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're gonna officially call the order, December the 16th GRTC meeting and start as we customarily do by introducing ourselves around the table. And then we'll start over in the left corner and work our way back around and just introduce ourselves and organization that you represent or whatever you want to say about yourself. All right, Tyrone Nelson, I represent Henrico County on the GRTC board.
I'm Neil Gibson, City Attorney's Office.
Terrell Hughes, Henrico County.
Bart Smith, Chesterfield.
Dave Anderson, Chesterfield County.
Nicole Jones, City of Richmond.
Ellen Robertson, City of Richmond.
Cheryl Adams, GRTC CEO.
Jim Engel, Chesterfield County.
I'm starting over 12.
Ken Lance, Monroe, VA. GRTC.
Jan Swift, GRTC. Ashley Potter, GRTC.
GRTC. Anthony Carter, GRTC.
Jen Zanzarella, GRTC.
Joe Diller, GRTC.
Adrian Torres, GRTC.
Dina Weinstein, Henrico Citizen.
Hernandez, GRTC.
Which Avenue, GRTC.
Constance Maxson, City of Richmond.
Tanya Thompson, GRTC.
Sharika Ruffin, RideFinders.
GRTC. David Wild, GRTC. All right, good morning, everyone. I messed up. I did something.
The comments.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead. Do we have any public comments? Okay, anyone here to make a comment this morning? Doing public comment section. Yes, ma'am. Go up to the.
Yeah, we have to get another podium.
All right, let's-
Should you
Yeah,
stay
wherever
where the
you
chair
want to
is?
stay.
Yeah, just staying with the chair.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm here today to
Tell us what your name and.
Constance Haskins.
Okay.
I'm here today. I work 2 full-time jobs. I get off at 9 o'clock at night and there's no pulse buses out there. It takes me approximately 2 hours to get home. And I just want to know, what can we do about this?
Okay.
Not only they're like 20 minutes away.
All right. Ms. Haskins, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. We'll get back with you. Can you get with her, please? We'll have somebody come over real quick and get your information so that we can follow up and talk to her so she don't have to stay here the whole time. So we are moving up the CEO report to the beginning of the meeting. So we noticed that we were having our person that we're going to honor have to sit through the whole meeting. And if we are honoring people, we'd rather knock that out at the beginning. All right. So Cheryl has a couple things that, Cheryl.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
First is our employees of the month. We had 2 for the month of December. The first one is an operator, and I don't see the operator here, but I'll tell you a little bit about why this person was nominated for Employee of the Month. It's operator Dominique Berry, and it said her actions directly contributed to saving the customer's life at the downtown transfer station. She observed an unresponsive person. She remained calm under pressure and immediately made all the appropriate actions, which played a vital point in the timely administration of life-saving maneuvers by recommended by her peers as employees. The second is Link Supervisor Latrell Yurman, and she is here today with us. She was nominated. It says that she maintains strong, respectful relationships with her subordinates, her peers, and her superiors. She demonstrates wisdom and understanding of her role every day. And when she sees a need, she doesn't hesitate to step in. She's willing to step up and help across all divisions, not just microtransit. It says Latrell is truly an asset to GRTC. We appreciate their work and dedication to GRTC and to the region. If you would join me in giving Latrell. Okay. Next up, can you have the pictures? Oh, okay, there we are.
And Latrell, if you don't want to, unless, did you want her to stay the whole time?
She's welcome to stay. She's welcome to get back to work. It's totally up to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give her a round.
Next up on my list is the holiday parade. As you can see from the pictures there, and they'll circulate a little bit. We participated in a Richmond parade. As you can see, we had one of our fixed route buses wrapped in a festive holiday theme. And we were actually featured on CBS for well over a minute, where they shared updates on our projects and our zero fare initiatives. This wrap was designed by Kate Sheldon in our marketing department, and we had about 20 GRTC employees volunteer who participated. I can say it was a lot of fun. We got a lot of cheers as we walked the parade route, and it's just a way of connecting with the region.
Looks like a warm day.
It was not warm, but as you start walking, you warm up. So
So you guys walk from where? I always see it at the end. So where's the beginning is where?
the Science Museum,
Okay.
yes.
So the Science Museum
Yes.
up toward Belgium. Right?
All the way to 10th Street, 10th to Children's Hospital. It used to turn at 8th, but now it goes all.
No. I'm saying it starts at the Science Museum and
Yes.
goes down.
Yes.
So what is that? 5 miles?
I think 3. I
Oh,
think
okay. So it's not that bad.
it isn't.
When I was younger, I went to Thomas Jefferson High School. I was in a band,
Oh,
and we used to start at Willow Lawn.
oh, I remember.
Yeah.
That. You remember that? Yeah. I do.
Yeah, it used to be Willow Lawn, all the way up to pretty much where it ends now.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
that's
do
crazy.
remember that.
So I saw you guys. I think I took my eyes off of it for a minute. Then I saw the bus, and then I saw this. I was like, "Whoa, is that Cheryl back there?"
That was me. I have to support my people.
So excited, excited.
Was at the convention center.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Watch it from the inside. not the outside.
We saw Nicole there on the city's float.
Yes. Well, you were with the mayor and all that. Yeah.
Next up on my list is RVA Rapid Transit. Faith Walker is the chairman announced last week. Faith is leaving. She's actually moving to Africa, and we wanted to honor her. We were hoping she was going to be here, but I'm not sure if she's actually left yet or not. But we would just want to say we're incredibly grateful for her advocacy and leadership, which has had a lasting impact on transit in the Richmond region. I had an opportunity to meet the new executive director. His name is Chad Sanders, and I don't see him here either. He was also invited. So we look forward to working with him and continuing to strengthen our partnership between GRTC and RVA Rapid Transit. Next up, we have the annual report, which we have placed a copy at your desk, and it's also on our consent agenda. There's a resolution asking the board to support the annual report. And basically, this is just what happened in fiscal year 2025, which was a milestone year for GRTC. And this highlights some of our accomplishments. As you can see, and we went over the annual report during some of our committee meetings and just talked about some of the things that were in there. The 12 million riders that we carried during 2025. It talks about our fiscal actual and budget revenue summary, our DTS agreement that we have, our ETI program. So lots of good stuff in a small package. So hopefully you'll take the time to read some of that. And the other thing I wanted to do is provide a budget process update. So as you all know, we officially kicked off our planning for FY27 during our retreat in September with you all. And since then, we've had department meetings with each of our departments working through their ask. And so we'll continue that process. And our goal is to have a draft of the major drivers that's influencing our budget to the Finance Committee in January. Once we do that, and we ask you all to react to that, we'll move to a full draft budget review workshop in March at the Finance Committee, and the full board will receive an update in March at that meeting. So we're working through this process with development and finance, as well as our grants. At the Finance and Development meeting, many of you saw the grants that we're talking about submitting. So we're still working through that. And that will also be a part of our budget. So this timeline allows us to be thoughtful, transparent, and give you all a heads up so that there are no surprises. And the last thing that I have is the RFQ for the downtown transfer station. The request for qualifications is live now. It will close at the end of January. And we have had a lot of interest in that project. Well over 100 people have registered. So I think if I'm not mistaken, Tanya, you said 149. Well over 150, yes. So lots of interest. And that's all I have.
All right. It's a lot. It's more. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions for our executive? All right, none. All right, let's move forward. Approval of our November 18th, 2025 board meeting minutes.
So moved.
All right, moved and second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Consent agenda items, regional public transportation plan, FY 27. Adrian is here to answer any questions if needed. MOU for CVTA regional funds. From City of Richmond for North-South BRT. Adrian is here for that as well. Resolution for the FY 25 annual report that Cheryl just mentioned. And then conference room technology upgrades change order. Now I know Dexter talked about that in finance. I don't know if you did it in development too. So I think if you were on the committee, you probably heard about that. But anyone have any questions for consent agenda items? All right, hearing none, can we get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Or something?
Who moved?
Nicole's gonna move it for us.
No.
So moved.
Oh, Dave moved it? Sorry, okay. Dave, you whispered that one. All right, motion made by Mr. Anderson, second by Councilwoman Jones. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, development update, subcommittee report.
So a lot of we discussed the consent items. We talked a little bit about the RFQ for the downtown transfer station that was mentioned already. Something associated with that is the operation and maintenance plan, which is still being developed, which is an important consideration relative to the downtown transfer station. Mr. Hernandez gave us an update on paratransit recommendations and next steps, and he's on the agenda for later. Let's see what else. We began discussions regarding cost participation policy for new services, which would apply to new routes or zones and expansion of a route that might increase frequency or service hours. And that was also discussed in finance. So I'll leave it at that. And that's just the beginning discussion. A big item, which is the next item on the agenda and an action item, is approval to advance North-South BRT design to 30%. 30% design is the next step in advancing North-South BRT from Brook Hill Azalea Shopping Center down to Springline Stonebridge. That effort is estimated to cost about $3 million, and the funding is in place for that. It's a combination of state, federal, and CVTA regional funds, which the city secured. The design effort will involve surveying, geotechnical engineering, underground utility surveying and estimating, and should take about 6 to 7 months to complete. As it relates to discussions about sustainability, this section of North-South BRT is anticipated to be implemented in 3 phases. So Brook Hill Azalea to the downtown transfer center, downtown transfer station to Southside Plaza right about here, and then Southside Plaza to Stonebridge Spring Line. The first 2 of those phases are generally cost neutral relative to operations, but that 3rd phase is estimated to cost about $7 million a year to operate. But before we even operate the service, we've got to get through final design, and that's estimated at $18 million. And a grant is being submitted for that in early 26. And then grant requests for construction are estimated at $334 million. And grant applications are planned for submittal in the remainder of FY 26. And if I get anything wrong, I hope someone will correct me. And then no grants for operations are being requested at this time. Those are slated for 2030. And Laura's going to give us more updates when this is on the agenda next.
All right, well, Bob, thank you for always bringing as much information as possible. We appreciate you. Almost like you are GRTC staff. Anybody have any questions about development committee updates, or anyone want to add anything? All right, thank you. All right, we're gonna turn the floor over to Laura Toothman to do the BRT Advanced Design and Engineering presentation, action items.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thanks for having me this morning. As Barb mentioned, we are nearing the point where we need to go ahead and advance the project from where we currently are, which is about 15% design, just shy of 15%, up to 30% design. As you can see, we've been contemplating this project for quite a while, but I guess formal initiation happened in about 2017. Right now, and as you can see, 2022, 23 is when we did our major corridor study, and the board of directors approved the locally preferred corridor, which is what you see in our maps these days from Azalea Brook Hill down to Stonebridge Springline. In 2024, the board approved the current round of funding that we have that we're working through right now. And since that time, we've been in our study phase. We have our stations pretty much nailed down at this point, and we're working on our final preferred concept. The design advancement, which is what we brought to you today, is we hope going to begin in the winter of 2026. It's a combination of different types of survey that is required to really help us nail down the preliminary engineering for the entire route. The design advancement and the completion of our NEPA, or National Environmental Policy Act analysis, is going to be going hand in hand. Our NEPA might actually be completed before the design advancement is complete, but that's perfectly okay. Once we're finished with this design advancement, the detailed ALTA surveys, the subsurface utility surveys, we're going to be doing some aerial surveys of some of the portions. That will inform our design, which we're anticipating is probably going to take about 3 years or so. And then, we're looking at construction starting in 2028 and completing somewhere around 2031. As I mentioned, this is our current proposed alignment, starting up here at Hill Azalea, heading down Chamberlain Parkway, Chamberlain Avenue, to Lee Street, then to 8th and 9th Street, and then heading down, we'll be crossing the Manchester Bridge, taking Commerce Road to Hall Street, and then turning down Hall Street. Here, turn right on Belt Boulevard, we'll pass our current facility to Midlothian Turnpike, and then the southern terminus right now is Springline, Stonebridge. As you can see, this is our current and our future funding for the design process. Going back to the timeline, the locally preferred alternative, the alignment of the process, was about $1 million. Our current phase right now is about $3.5 million. And the additional survey work is estimated to be $3.1 million. That's all. If you all have any questions.
So this is an action item. So do we have any questions first?
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Your timeline indicated 2025 to 2028 for design. Is that representing that it's already underway? The purple portion of this, go back one more slide. That one right there, design at the far right, 2025, that's including what's already underway, or is that supposed to say 2026?
That does include we're in, like, dust shop.
You mentioned that it was gonna come across the Manchester Bridge, and then you said hit Hall Street.
Manchester Bridge and come down Commerce Road and then turn right on Hall Street, yes.
Hall to Southside Plaza.
Yes.
Just for clarity, if you can go to the slide that shows the funding. More right there. We might want to do local CVTA regional Richmond requested, not Richmond, just so that people, it's the 15%. The 35% funding, and Richmond's putting the request in, but it's not coming from Richmond's 50%. And so I just think it would be clearer for everybody if it said Richmond requested instead of Richmond, so that people don't think that that's coming out of Richmond's CVTA dollars.
Got a question on that. So those are three different buckets, right? I remember in 23, that was the alignment dollars for design for preferred alternative. And then about a year and a half ago, 3.5 million to do the 0 to 15. And then obviously now we're coming for the 15 to 30, which is the request for the 3.1. Now, if you go to the next slide, is that all inclusive? That first line is both of those, or is that another step? The NEPA design 0 to 30, that's the step we already took in February 24 and this one, or is that another step? Because the numbers are about the same. The secured funding is 6.4. So is that 0 to 15 that we've already funded and this today ask? So after this, the next step is the blue. Is that correct? So there's not another 0 to 30 somewhere. That's currently this one. All right. And there is some federal, if you go back a slide, there is some federal funding in those. There is 1.6 from the last approval, 1.4 from this approval. So there's about 3 million in federal. If you go forward now, doesn't show the 3 million federal there. That's the reason I asked. I'm sure it's in there, but that's correct, right? The next step is the 18 million. That's the next step. Move design from 30 to 100. So the design phase overall from alignment concept and design would be 18 plus the 24 plus the initial 25 million to do the confirmation option. And then the full design, $25 million. Then 340 to build it, 7 million to operate the connection from transfer station to spring line. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Other questions? All right, hearing none, can we get a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, motion has been made and second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. So we continue to move on with North-South BRT. All right, operational update. So subcommittee report. Under operational update, Councilwoman Robertson, then we have operations, KPI, briefing, and paratransit study project recap.
Chair.
Yes.
First of all, let me thank the staff for the work that they do to prepare us for these committees and the volume of information that they bring. I'm really impressed with the data that they provide, the details of the data as it relates to what's going on in operation, and it gives me extreme appreciation for the magnitude of this corporation and the work that is being done. So the operator staff is currently at 313 with a goal of 325. We have a new class that is already in process with 10 operators in that training class and another class starting in January. The mobility operation continued to perform well. Staffing is stable. On-time performance is meeting targets and customer feedback remains positive. The customer service performance has improved. They have verified complaints dropped by 17%, which is a 5% improvement over the last report in October. Accidents have increased slightly, but remain below the 2025 baseline, and retaining efforts are underway to reinforce safety operations. Security is doing a great job. Their efforts remain effective with public safety officers addressing onboarding issues and ambassadors proactively meeting concerns throughout the transportation arteries, all of the arteries. And fleet maintenance is keeping our fleets operating well. They are operating within the time period, getting all of the buses in there through the routine maintenance inspections and keeping them rolling. So overall, operation seems to be doing a very effective job. Of course, this is a season where a lot of folk are, as it relates to the reduction, holiday season and those kinds of things, so face a little bit of challenges, but being well taken care. That's my report.
All right, thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you. All right, Kevin Hernandez, you have two things, I think. Let's get the first one.
Oh, you can. Yeah, she just covered it.
I'm gonna skip the KPI briefing. I think Ms. Robertson gave a great synopsis of our committee report, unless there's any specific questions for me.
For the bus.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yes.
That's how he uses. What is this? The last slide. The operations committee, we gave a
Back one. Yeah.
we gave a report out of all the vehicles that we have currently in production, and so we wanted to show you a draft of what our motor coach buses will look like. These are slated to come next year between July and September. So these will replace our existing buses for the commuter routes. So as you can see, we'll have two doors. It's improved low floor accessibility for our riders instead of just having one door and steps to go into. So we're excited to see this big purple bus.
So the regular buses that we have, these will start to replace them, is what you're saying?
These will replace the commuter buses that we have for the express routes that go down.
Oh, okay. Express routes, okay.
It's the seating capacity on those. What do you lose for that middle door?
You actually still have about 52 seats.
Really? Oh, that's awesome.
Because there's a few seats actually in the bottom deck. They're flip down seats. Sit down. We'll share more updates as we progress on the building now. These are being built first in Canada before they come down here.
Cost on those. Is that a new, well, first of all, is that a new design? Is that like new to the market?
These are the low floor version is about 2-3 years old.
Right. And cost per unit about?
1 point. Yeah.
A little over one. Yeah.
She add in the technology and all that too. All right. So I'll get to the next agenda item, which is the paratransit operations project summary. You know how long? One or something yesterday.
In the packet.
full report.
Yeah, the board report. Okay. I guess
No? Okay, well, all right, I guess I'll just give a briefing then. So in December 2024, the board approved a assessment of GRTC's paratransit operations to evaluate the current performance, contract delivery, and future service needs, and to benchmark it against peer agencies. A WSP, which is a consulting firm for transportation and planning, was selected. The current contractor for our paratransit operations is We Drive You, which is formerly known as National Express. We're entering year 4 of our 5-year contract, which makes this assessment very timely as we consider future contracting and service delivery decisions. Just a brief timeline. So in December 24, that's when we were awarded the contract. In March of this year, WSP was on site to do an assessment. In April, we received first of various reports that were issued to GRTC and to We Drive You. And we just wrapped up at the committee meeting, executive summary of the project. So what was included in this study was an operations analysis, a structure analysis of our current organization. Oh, there it is. Okay. So the study was done to understand how well our paratransit services are working today, and where we can improve efficiency, effectiveness, and rider experience. So looking at the study, they reviewed day-to-day operations like dispatch, scheduling, customer service, training, and management. It also reviewed the structure between We Drive You and GRTC's transportation department. The rider experience was a major focus. They used surveys, interviews, and a review of complaints and commendations, some of which included feedback about delays that riders express, customer service, and long trip times. They also reviewed our technology use as part of the service delivery. And then the study also analyzed performance data from 2023 and 2024, and it benchmarked it against another agency, which was Southwest Ohio Regional Transit Agency in Ohio. And through this, staff and riders were engaged directly through interviews and surveys. And the study also examined whether paratransit and microtransit services could be integrated using shared vehicles, staff, and dispatch systems. So what did this all yield? So based on the on-site observations, data analysis, and stakeholder feedback, several recommendations have already been implemented. So as I have reported at a few board reports over the past few months, We Drive You's on-time performance for the paratransit delivery has been 92% on target, at least for the latter part of this year. And we've also seen a reduction in customer service complaints as it relates to their service delivery. And that was a result of their initial report back in March and April. We immediately implemented that, some of the recommendations to improve on those targets. We also reconvened the Care Advisory Council and Committee. This was something that's been dormant since COVID. So this is a ridership committee that we meet with quarterly to get feedback from the riders directly. And so we had our first meeting in November, and we have our next one scheduled for January to continue that relationship with the community. Benchmarking against the industry standards concluded that GRTC's use of resources to provide both the federally mandated ADA paratransit service, which is our CARE, and the premium CARE Plus service, both of which are fare-free, warranted a review. Consolidation of such services would optimize resources and costs, and I'll have a slide right after this that shows that. WSP developed guidelines to strengthen our contractual oversight, which resulted in a brand new general manager being selected for We Drive You, and also the creation of our mobility unit, which is being headed up by Catherine Newman, who was recently hired in transportation. So that's been helping with just the contractual administration and oversight between both the contractor and GRTC. And last but not least, we did get several action plans, both short and long term, for us to follow over the next year and up to 5 years in terms of improvements that we can make for the service as well. And so the last slide here is just showing what our per trip costs have increased by. So between 2017 and 2023, our per trip costs have increased by 79%. The Care Plus's expanded service area leads to longer trip times and more deadhead miles, in which deadhead are miles traveled without passengers. Longer trips with fewer passengers lead to reduced productivity and efficiency. And so the combination of longer, less efficient trips and extra deadhead drives up the cost per trip. So this is what our consultant has provided us and for us to consider as we move forward. Is it?
Questions? So what's the plan to decrease deadhead trips and whatever it is you just said at the end?
So that is for all of us to consider in terms of the Care Plus model that's integrated now with our care, the regular paratransit, because with it being combined, all our resources are being stretched thin by operating both services together. So that's why we have a lot of deadhead and a lot of long trip times as a result of that.
Specifically the paratransit.
Yeah, so like for instance, say you have a paratransit pickup and Barb has a Care Plus pickup and we're going out to Short Pump to pick her up. On the way back, we'll probably pick her up, but then we might have to drop you off first before we can drop her off. And so all that integration there could lead to inefficiencies based on where you're going.
So when you said that's for us to figure out, what is the staff recommendation on eliminating those?
So we did have a proposal of splitting off Care Plus and Care separately.
And what would that look like? So y'all got, come on,
Yeah.
tell me. I mean, we asking question by question, spit it out.
So the recommendation would be to have Care Plus independently through a different third party, such as with our Care on Demand, which is a third party similar to Uber and things like that. And then Care, we would operate in-house on our own.
So how does that impact service? I guess what I'm asking, the details. So great. And then I'm asking, okay, and then what does that mean? Just tell it all to me.
So by splitting that up, by splitting it up, the paratransit service by itself would be more concentrated in the city and also within the immediate service area. So we'll be able to perform our trips efficiently, less deadhead because everything's concentrated in the service area, and riders will have less delays, less length of trip times as well.
So you think it will improve the rider experience ultimately?
Absolutely.
And then what does it do to cost? So I guess if that's the case, that's the staff recommendation. Not necessarily is for us to kind of approve that or, vote it down. So I'm trying to figure out what that process would look like.
I think Adrian has a
Differentiation, Care Plus is only in Henrico County.
Mhm.
So that is there in Henrico County, paratransit service, similar to Henrico Chesterfield County has access to Chesterfield. A little bit of a complication is that Care Plus, even though it's for Henrico County and is a premium service, when zero fare went in, we adopted zero fare with the Care Plus. The difference between Chesterfield and Henrico is Chesterfield currently charges $6 per ride. And the model that Kevin just mentioned, where we have a third party operate kind of our on-demand, which is what Chesterfield has, we also have the same cost as Chesterfield for the on-demand, which is $6. So the impact to the rider is that if we kind of put them in the Care on Demand model, that automatically puts them in a cost category. We would want, of course, Henrico County to be comfortable with that model before that change happened, as well as these individuals are now used to being able to get around the network with zero fare, so why should they even want to ship? We're trying to figure out, is there a model that can benefit to maybe it's something, I think this is also what Chesterfield's doing, maybe it's not necessarily a order situation, but if you're going a certain distance, that kind of triggers you into a premium service, and then there's a charge to that. So we can't just say, change it over, make that is working without impacting the rider, based on, even though it is the savings and the impact, the value worth it kind of combination. So yeah, I've had some initial conversations to explaining the model, to Henrico as well as have talked to Chesterfield to understand that model. We'll come back to you guys with an actual recommendation to then kind of adopt.
Yeah, so I would ask before that we provide some additional information. So this has been great for me, but man, it took us a minute to get there. So I would love to kind of have a flow of information that says, I think the details that y'all collectively provided in advance, because I think just hearing this portion of it, I'm like, well, makes perfect sense. Let's rock and roll. Then hearing you say, well, there is a cost though, so let's put it all
To the
together.
customer. To the customer. It would be
To the, well, but yeah, that's a change in service, right? And so passing on, we are passing on a lot of costs. I believe in passing them on, but we got to be thoughtful and looking at it, as a whole. And that's where my concern would be. So I think, and this is my specific ask, and the board can agree with it or not, as a whole, but I think we would be looking at the information to understand what the model looks like, and then what does the impact to the customer appear to be, and then how would staff look at either mitigating that cost or, whatever your full recommendation is. I think that's what I'm looking for, your full recommendation versus the part and parcel. Would also always, because it appears to be more of a Henrico Chesterfield decision, would defer to those leaders on the board on that. But even still, how does it impact our overall service delivery, which then impacts the city of Richmond as well? So,
Were you planning a brand recommendation today, or you were just updating us?
I was updating you on the project.
So when are you thinking about going deeper into this, I guess?
Well, we'll continue to look at what the options are and what the cost is. We've already started that process, so we'll continue that. And I would say maybe by the spring, we should have a recommendation.
The hope was to be able to bring something, but after diving deeper into it, realized we were not ready. That was going to be kind of a recommendation, but yeah, the spring was the goal by the beginning of the fiscal year to be able to implement some sort of change that could go.
Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you. All right, so I had like 10 items for board chair report, but I'll hold them. I don't want to keep y'all here all day. We do need to go into executive session, so.
We didn't do finance committee.
Oh, sorry, yes. Finance. Jumped all the way over you, Jim. Subcommittee report.
I knew we'd get back there.
Yeah.
I didn't even speak up because I knew we would make it back.
We had a hearty couple-hour meeting.
We did. As far as what was presented, where we are year to date, it's in the report, starting on page 40, if anybody wants to see all the details, but we're in good shape at this point in the year. What we did talk about though is that not only getting information on where we are year to date, but also a projection of where we're going to end the year. And that projection, we agreed to, we needed enough time in for the fiscal year to be able to make that projection actually worth, hearing and being able to count on that being relatively reasonable. So we do expect that change to be added to the reports next month. We believe we'll have enough time in for this year. Everything else, you got timing issues on some of the revenues and expenses, but we're in good position right now. More so though, we talked about, and I don't know if Mr. Donald wants to share. He actually brought a lot of good points to the finance committee meeting, and I think he can articulate them better than I can. So I'll defer to you on.
Yeah. So one, I'm really and would give great I guess call it props to the board on fiscal management in general and have really been impressed by that. But at the same time, I think I expressed what I would call disappointment in how we communicate those things out. So I think this would be, and I know there's some folks from the municipalities at the table, so they can chime in as well. But we're all having very tough budget conversations. The city of Richmond for sure. We having some deep budget conversations, and I think we would all give, right arm, left arm, whichever arm you want, to almost have what we would call a 6-year head start on, trying to identify what resources look like. But in lieu of us talking about it in a way that, all right, we have done something, I'm gonna call it extraordinary, that we've basically taken our current resources and our current funding model that serves everybody with the fare free, which is kind of the envy of others, as well as made some prudent investments while leveraging the CVTA funds to be able to lift up our coffers so that we have a 6-month head start to do something we've done long before I got here, which is, go out and get grants and do all those other things. In a changing environment, we're likely more prepared than others. But I know when I'm picking up the newspaper and things of that nature, what I'm reading is, oh, well, they're approaching a financial cliff in 6 years. I don't know, that's not palatable to households and others who, they're not 6 years away from, a cliff of their own. Our communication on that just has to improve, because I think the board has made some very prudent decisions that, again, long before I got here, puts us in a very, what I would call, strong financial position in a very changing federal and state fiscal environment. We are prepared. And now the decision is, do we want to keep this same model? Do we make minor adjustments and things of that nature? And so I think those things should be communicated differently. And so I would also want the board to be able to guide some of that communications, because the way it makes the board look as if these prudent decisions are not what they are, and that's not appropriate or proper. And so I'm not sure who's leading that process, but I would like it to be more of a board-centered process so that these prudent financial decisions that have us in a very strong position to be looking 6 years out is something that is communicated appropriately.
And one other point that I don't think you made just now is that we talked a lot about expansion. And the expansion at the same time we're talking about a cliff doesn't make sense, because how can you be expanding and going off a cliff? So the concern in the out years are because we've done such a good job of shoring up the service and growing the service, and now we're looking at expansion, and that expansion cost is what we're looking at those 6 years out. And what does that expansion look like? Does it continue at the pace that we have some projections on, or do we slow that down, not to hurt the system, but to keep the system strong? So I think that's a big.
Missing that. Yeah, I apologize for missing that point, and I appreciate you bringing that back, because that's one of the most important pieces, is that, we're talking about falling off a cliff, which actually isn't the case, while we're talking about expanding. Again, makes the board look irresponsible, which is what that is definitely not the case. And staff, who I think Councilor Robertson, you're my counselor, but board member Robertson highlighted that, staff has done a great job of preparing this information and helping us to make these decisions. We want to make sure that we are communicating those things effectively, and that these decisions that we're making, are aligned. And so that piece that we're now looking at, which is expansion, what does that look like? And when and how were those decisions brought forward? I think that aligns with what I just asked y'all, the detail that we're looking for in making these future decisions as well. So I'll yield there. Hopefully, I apologize for missing that point because that was excellent catch.
I just am very thankful for the conversation that is going on in all of the committees. I think that these meetings are able to be much more efficient because of all of the committee meetings and the information that we're sharing, and quite frankly, some new perspectives and some implementation of things that we've been talking about combined together. We really are in a great place. We really have made tremendous strides since 2020, when we couldn't even get over a hurdle to get enough drivers to even get back to a normal service. So it's important that we don't lose the messaging and that we do continue with that. Things are going very well, so well that we need to have discussions about what our future expansion looks like. And again, not to stop future expansion, but to make sure we grow at the right pace so that we can fund it. And so we spend as much time on that as we did on the actual financials for the year, probably more time on that. But I thought it was a fantastic discussion, so I appreciated that a lot.
Standing with no idea on how we're gonna pay for it is not the method that is prudent. So
Like I said, it was a great discussion. I'm sure we have did we record it?
Yes, it is recorded.
Really
If someone wants to go back.
Deep dive or just really be inspired by the finance committee, go back and watch it.
It was the longest finance committee meeting we've ever had, at least since I've been on the finance.
Yeah, it was good. You finished?
I am.
All right. All right, now, so we're getting ready to go into executive session. I don't think we're gonna have much other business. So for staff, I just want to say happy holidays to you. Thank you for all the work that you do and making GRTC the great place that it is. And I don't know what your work schedule will look like. I don't have the authority to give you off and all that, but I do hope that you guys enjoy your family. We're getting ready to go to executive session, so I think most of you will not be in the executive session. So I move that GRTC's Board of Directors hold a closed meeting pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia for the discussion and consideration of performance of the Chief Executive Officer of Greater Richmond Transit Company. Need a second?
Second.
All in favor? All right. No opposition, I'm sure. All right, so I know Joe needs to stay, I think.
We just need to.
Freedom of Information Act, and whereas section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements under Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certifying resolution applies. And only such business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board. Witness the following votes of board members: Tyrone Nelson, yes. Jim Engel.
Aye.
Barbara Smith.
Yes.
Dave Anderson.
Yes.
Daniel Smith.
Yes.
Terrell Hughes.
Yes.
Odie Donovan second.
Yes.
Ellen Robertson.
Yes.
Nicole Jones.
Yes.
All right. I think that is it. Are there any other business items for this GRTC board? All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great holidays. Enjoy.
Merry
See you guys in a couple of hours. Dan.